agile organizations. That's a big one, eh? How do we do this? Is there actually a way to do this? So we've been working around resilience, the topic of resilience. We've been working around how do leaders become resilient. Originally, it's from material science, right? I mean, it's like you have something impacting an object, and it's the elasticity of the object to bounce back. Yeah, and everything that you say is relevant. So how do I go through difficult times as an individual? Now we have kind of understood how that works, and we're working there with leaders. Now it's a bit more tricky when you look at an entire organization. Is it enough to apply agile processes? Is it enough to have scrum teams? Or is it enough to measure sick days? And we believe it's not. I'll keep my sales pitch really quick. Leadership Choices is a company for executive development. We have 150 coaches worldwide. And one of the topics that we work with is resilience. And Tina Lieber is here with me, my colleague, and that's it. And for the rest, I talk about content. Let's replace the term resilience with immune system of an organization. Okay? So I'm asking you, how do you know how well the immune system of your organization is functioning? Meaning, how immune is your organization against disruptive change? Because we maybe have been too complacent. We didn't notice that there was a competitor coming up, and all of a sudden, market share is shrinking. Oops, and then we're too late. And then there's Zetschel standing in front of the Daimler leader saying, we will be Tesla in 2020. Well, good morning, right? I mean, what have you been doing all the years when Tesla was still small? Yeah, that's complacency. So agility, but also the capacity to innovate, also having buffer to go through tough times, to market bumps. My point is, we are actually measuring the immune system of our companies in the rear mirror. Yeah, so we're looking back. Yeah, so, okay, in hindsight, this is what it looks like. Yeah, so the point is, we do see some lacking performance, right? There's this plant in, say, Spain, and somehow performance is dropping. Why is it dropping? Well, we don't know, right? I mean, we do have some KPIs. Maybe it's a process issue. Maybe it's a people issue. Maybe it's a motivation issue. Maybe. There's a lot of maybe in between. We have missing innovations. The others, competition comes up with a lot of patents. We don't. Why is that? How do we find out? Especially when the organization is larger than, say, a couple of hundred people, when you have multiple layers of organization, it is kind of hard to find out, right? You're guessing. And then we're working with leaders, and then the one leader is guessing, and the other leader is guessing, and all together they're guessing, and then they're doing people decisions or organizational development decisions based on gut feeling, in essence. The attrition is increasing in, say, Germany, south of Germany. Why is that? We don't know. Yeah, so we can ask people. They have some sort of opinion, but do we know that this is right? There are conflicts in the leadership team. So what do we do about that? So how do you translate observation? How do you solidify observation? How do you get from feeling to data? And how do you implement that into actual doing? Declining sales, presentism, so people showing up despite the fact that they're actually sick. Or the other way around, people not showing up for work despite that they're healthy. Declining trust into leadership, allowing sick days, low agility. We can observe it, but we do not, in many cases, we do not know the answer why. And we think this can be changed, quite frankly. Let's apply the concepts of IoT to people. And since we have a lot of engineers in the room, and I'm an engineer myself, here's an engineering metaphor. I'm asking you, so let's take a crisis. So a crisis, if you are a skyscraper, a crisis could be an earthquake. Now, if you are a skyscraper and you live in Taipei, what's your problem? Now, what's the trick of this building? It's not very massive, is it? It's kind of an elegant structure. How does it survive an earthquake? That's the cool thing. The engineers built a pendulum between the 86th and 92nd floor, 600 ton of a pendulum. The pendulum is sitting on hydraulic cylinders, and the hydraulic cylinders are controlled by a computer. When the earthquake hits the building, this pendulum gets put into a counter motion to balance out the earthquake. Is that a place to be when there's an earthquake? I mean, you have a lever, a half a kilometer, you have a 600-ton pendulum going back and forth, and you have an earthquake. I wouldn't want to be there at that point in time, but it is surviving since 2009. And what it does is, it applies the concepts of IoT to this building. Now, how could we apply this to people? So what does IoT do, in essence, is just applying something to something else, and that gives us data, and then we do something more or less meaningful with the data by connecting the dots. So they measure the earthquake, the shock waves and everything. They analyze, there's probably something like strength and direction and amplitude and all of that, and they predict from that a particular behavior, and then they implement, which is they put that pendulum in motion, okay? And then they analyze again and so forth. That is, in principle, like every control cycle that we know, that we have learned in engineering school back then. Now, what if you could implement this to humans? So here's the idea. So the idea is that we go from gut feeling to evidence-based organizational development. And we're using exactly the same things, just we don't use them on a skyscraper. We rather use it on organizations and people and numbers or data that we can connect to this. So what do we measure? Assuming this is a part of an organization, right? So you have teams, and they interact with other teams. You have people, they report up into a leader, and that is data that we can measure. And what we get from that, based on research, we know what are risk factors for the organizational agility and health of an organization, and what are protective factors. Now, out of your own experience, you're all leaders, you're all being led. What could be a risk? What is a risk factor? What could impair the resilience of your team, of your organization, that comes from within or without? What would be a protective factor? What would be something where you think, if this is there and I can measure it, this is helping my organization to stay healthy and agile? What could that be? Having a leader that is a role model, having trust in my colleagues because I know them, I spend quality time with them, as opposed to I never see them, or I'm just sitting in a virtual process, right? So there's this measuring. Now, what to measure exactly? So what we are suggesting is, first of all, the nucleus of an organization is the individual. But the individual an organization is much more than a sum of 100,000 individuals. So we have an individual, and they have their own stuff going on. They even have a private life. Can you believe that? They might have even problems in their private lives. You know, maybe if Spain, for example, if the economy in Spain is going through a crisis, maybe that will even impact their performance if they still have a job because your family is suffering. In the team, we either like each other, we know each other, or we don't. We trust each other, or we don't. We communicate with each other at par, on eye level, or we don't. We respect differences. So diversity, we all speak about diversity, but matter of factly, diversity is a tough thing to do. Because if you have people that are different than you, boy, I mean, you need to be willing to understand them. Diverse teams create work, because you need to learn to respect each other, learn to understand each other, like cats and dogs. That's very diverse, but not very easy, at least not with our dog. Then there is this is the country, and this is the headquarter. So it's us and them. It's another dynamic, yeah? And who knows that, right? I mean, who doesn't know it? So the guys in the headquarters, they don't know what they're doing. They're asking all these reports from us. We don't see the reason why. Now they're changing the template again. It's non-value-added stuff. They think, oh, these guys, they're lazy. They don't comply. They want to make it easy. So there's a lot of mental models, as we say, stereotypes that don't help collaboration. Yeah? But do we know them? Do we know how they influence process inefficiencies? No, we actually don't know, we guess. Then there is maybe a BU leader, BU leadership team. Is that a respected team? Is it a trusted team? Is this so-and-so? What about other parts of the organization? How do they collaborate? How do they trust each other? And there's also this other thing, to which degree can I identify with the purpose of the organization? That's yet a totally different thing, right? So yesterday there was a conference from British American Tobacco here. I'm an ex-smoker. I would have a real problem working in such an environment. Yeah? So I cannot and that's only me, I'm not saying that this is bad, I'm just saying I could not work there because I could not identify with the purpose of the organization. And what if other people out there in your organization that cannot fully identify with your purpose or with the vision of the organization? you're kind of half-heartedly in there. And the Gallup studies, you know, this Gallup Engagement Index, they would suggest that about 14 to 16% of the employees are fully committed. Everybody else is just plodding along or have already resigned. And then, obviously, there is the external world. There is disruption. There is external market factors. There is a societal context. All that has an impact on people. It is not that they would ignore it. Because people are beings that feel. Even if we think oftentimes. Actually, science tells us that we feel way more often than we think. So, how do we analyze it? So the next thing is, we're producing company heat maps that shows the level of health or resilience of particular departments based on the risk factors and the protective factors. So we have the measurement, we have the analytics. Now comes the real cool stuff. Because we do this on a global scale for a large organization, the next point is that we are able to predict. Assuming you had that data, I know it's not easy, but assuming you had that data, and you applied machine learning to it. So you have a lot of data, you have business challenges, you have elements like trust, collaboration, communication, identification with it. Now you're able to predict. So if I see this factors, protective factors, risk factors, levels of individual coping, based on historical data, based on data from my own company, based on data from other companies, I'm now able to predict and say, I think this particular unit needs say a coach, an assessment, a training. Maybe a leader should not be leading this group, a particular one. Maybe that is an expert, and there should be a people leader in there, because many times it's a leadership issue. Maybe a team is not having the right skills. Maybe it needs training. Maybe it needs more experience. Maybe the job that is to be done is just so much that it cannot be done, that it is virtually impossible to do it. And we see a lot of situations where people have to master a challenge which cannot be done by nobody. It's just impossible. Yeah? So, but how do you know? We get hard facts based from people that assess the situation on a multitude, on a plethora of different factors. So we have had the analysis, we have had the measurement, we analyzed it, we have now predicted what should be done based on our experience. Now we're doing it. So we're sending maybe a team to a training. And this could be a Six Sigma training, it could be an operational excellence training, it could be a communications training, it could be a leadership training. Maybe there's people that do need a coach, for example, or they do need a training or an upskilling or a feedback. And maybe there is a team that needs to be brought together to start talking to each other, to start trusting each other. We implement it, and then what we do is we then measure it again, and then we see how it works. So rather than doing it every other year, we're doing it on a continuous basis. Now, how do we do this? And I'll come to that in a second. So the other thing is, the cool thing with this is you can benchmark it against yourself. Yeah. So your organization, you can benchmark it against yourself 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 18 months ago. You can measure it against the industry, your company average. You can measure it against an industry standard, yeah, or a country standard. Now the thing is, the tricky thing is, in theory that all makes sense. Now how do we actually get to the data? How do we make people comply? So the problem is, we are asking for so many different items that it is very, very time consuming. And nobody will answer a questionnaire with 120 items. Just makes no sense. So how do we put lubricant into this system? 3 answers. First is, every leader with every department needs to be rolled onto this process. They need to see the value of it, and they will see the value of it when they know they can work with the data. Secondly is, it needs to be fun. And because fun is maybe a bit strongly put, but it needs to be not so much burdensome, okay? And the roll-on works in a way that we say, okay, so how much time, dear leader, are you prepared to invest into this process? Is it 5 minutes a week? Is it half an hour every 2 weeks? Is it an hour every month? What is it? And then based on that, there's an algorithm that will select randomly items out of a huge question pool and will send that to the iPhone or the whatever device, right? And you know, just when you're standing in a queue somewhere, checking in at the airport, or you're standing in traffic jam, whatever, you can just answer these questions. It's 5 questions, 6 questions. But since you do this on a regular basis over the year, over the weeks and the month, you do get feedback on all the different items. And then the third element, the people will ask the question, what's in for me? So if I'm a leader, what's in for me is I get the data. Anonymized, but I get the data, I can work with it. I actually see this management meeting that I had last month, how did this impact my team? I see it because the report tells me I can go to a portal, I can check my team, and I directly see the temperature of my team, and within a couple of weeks I will see the impact that a particular intervention, any intervention, had. So for the people, the trick is it needs to be incentivized. So there needs to be some element where people say, okay, I'm participating because the company wants me to participate, and because of that I get coins or virtual points or some sort of gamification currency that can be exchanged against free coffee at the coffee machine, free meals, or anything else that your company has. So there needs to be a virtual bonus that can be at the end converted into something meaningful. So that it needs to be taken seriously. And then the compliance will go up. We will never reach 100%, that's clear, but we will get to a significance level, which then actually can make statements. So now you have this engine that on a continuous basis throughout the entire organization is collecting this data. On a random basis, sometimes you're asking for trust, sometimes you're asking for leadership, sometimes you're asking for information sharing, for cooperation, for identification, for do I like the CSR activities of my company. And over the month, you get this data pool, and then you know all of a sudden, okay, the lacking performance, I now understand why this is coming from. I understand where in the organization the problem is, and I understand which risk factors and which protective factors play a role in that. So I know the where, and I know the why, and now I can do something about it. So it's, in essence, it is like an employee engagement survey plus many, many other surveys on steroids, on a rolling basis, incentivized and taken seriously, and taken out of the HR domain into an organizational development domain. And you can immediately have interventions and management decisions that are based on a totally different level of accuracy and profoundness. It is in the process of being produced. The name, currently, it will be Organizational Fire Index. FIRE stands for, FIRE is we kind of like it, because FIRE is like how much is your organization burning, that kind of thing. But it's also a cool acronym, and it happens to be our brand. Factors improving resilience effectiveness. I'm closing on a personal note. So personally, I think this is the next big thing. And I have to believe it, or we have to believe it, because we are developing it. But personally, I think this will be a very, very interesting tool if we got this to work. And we do believe, with the horsepower that we have behind that, this is actually a very cool thing. So watch out for that. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.